Welcome to the Great Basin Seasonal Outlook for October through January. As of the end of September, fire potential significantly decreased across the region from mid to late month, with Great Basin at PL1 and Nick dropping to PL2. We still continue to get fires across the Great Basin, so initial attack is still elevated, especially when we have lightning across the region. However, we've had no new large fires recently. Over the last 1 to 2 weeks, we've seen precipitation mainly over the southern half of the region. In many areas over southern Nevada into southwest Utah, we've seen above normal precipitation, and then generally below normal precipitation in the rest of the lower terrain of Utah, especially, and up north in Idaho and northwest Nevada. Over the last 30 days, temperatures have been well above normal across the northern half of the Great Basin and near normal in the far south. And precipitation over the last 30 days on average, again, has been above normal over western and southern Nevada and below normal elsewhere across the Great Basin. Since October 1st, the beginning of the water year, even with recent precipitation and precipitation we've seen over the last couple of months at times associated with a weak and late monsoon, precipitation still remains well below normal in many areas of the Great Basin. The only exception is far northwest Nevada and western Idaho, where areas are near to just above normal. Drought conditions continue across the region and have expanded over the last couple of months. We have widespread areas of moderate to severe drought over nearly all of the Great Basin, with the exception of western Idaho and northwest and far western Nevada, and areas that have seen either recent precipitation or have seen precipitation from the winter. We also have pockets of extreme drought that continue over much of southern Nevada into Utah and western Wyoming. The drought conditions will likely persist in many of these areas, and we may see some improvement up north in Idaho. So looking at our fuel conditions, looking at the rangeland fire probability for 2025, this indicates where we have significant fine fuel loading that we will have to monitor going through the fall and early winter months. In this image, the areas in orange or red or even yellow show above normal or well above normal fine fuel loading in parts of northwest Nevada especially, and across northern Nevada up into southern Idaho. These will be areas we will have to continue to monitor through the fall and early winter months, especially after prolonged dry periods, if we have cold fronts that bring increased or stronger winds. These fine fuels are already dead and dried from the summer and will go dormant, continuing as we go into the winter, which is still a dead fuel that is very responsive to ignitions under dry conditions. So again, these will be areas that we'll be monitoring for an increase in fire potential on a weather-dependent basis, certainly event-driven and probably for a burning period or so, but something to monitor as we go through the next several months. Looking at our 10-hour fuel moisture, we've had recent moisture across the region, so 10-hour fuel moisture is elevated in all areas. 100-hour fuel moisture, however, is still low in some of our drier pockets of northwest and northern Nevada into southwest Idaho. And 1,000-hour fuel moisture still generally on the low side as well, but we will see moisture moving across the region, so we should see these fuel moistures gradually increasing. Looking at our ERCs at the end of September, all ERCs were on the downward trend, and we were below the 50th percentile, with the exception of parts of central Idaho, which were on the upward trend with some drier conditions, but still below the 70th percentile. Again, moisture moving through early in October will help mitigate even those concerns in the north with respect to ERC. However, our live fuel moisture as of mid to late September was still below normal across generally all areas of the Great Basin, and some areas up north were still near record lows. These have probably moderated somewhat in the last week or so, and should moderate further going into October. But again, we are still dealing with low live fuel moistures, which will still be something to monitor. Looking at some of our dead fuel moistures for 100-hour fuel moisture, you can see from the blue line for this year, they are near record lows, and this was as of the end of September in central Idaho, and then still generally a near to below normal in other areas of the north. But you can see from the green forecast line with moisture coming in, we are expecting these fuel moistures to increase significantly as we go into the first week of October. Looking at areas over northwest Nevada and down into Utah, we are also seeing those similar conditions where fuel moistures are generally below normal in Nevada and above normal in Utah with the recent moisture. But we will see some of these conditions moderating in Nevada, and we may see the fuel moisture come down a bit in Utah in some of the drier spots of the southern areas of the Great Basin, where a lot of this expected moisture will likely not impact too much. However, as you can see, fuel moistures, although they will be coming down and may drop just below normal, will still not be near those record lows. So putting everything together, now we'll look at the future forecasting for the next few weeks to few months. The 8 to 14-day outlook shows generally above normal temperatures for the Great Basin, and the best chance of above normal precipitation would be over the eastern half of the Great Basin, with potentially some drier conditions further west. But we'll still likely see cooler temperatures and increases in relative humidity and some showers, even in some of these near normal areas. As we move through the rest of October, we may see some drying as we get mid to late month across the southern half of the Great Basin. And then looking at the November through January forecast from the Climate Prediction Center, showing better chances of above normal precipitation in the north and drier conditions in the south. This is typically what we would see in a La Nina year, and we are in the process of expecting or transitioning into some weak version of La Nina going through the fall months, or at least a cooler bias. So this would be the more traditional impacts associated with that type of oscillation. So we'll kind of see how that plays out, but again, better chances of above normal precipitation across the northern tier. So putting everything together, we are expecting normal conditions across the Great Basin from October through January, which would generally be low significant fire potential. Again, we will be monitoring these areas of fine fuel loading that are above normal over northwest and northern Nevada, up into southern Idaho as we go through the next few months. If we do have prolonged dry periods, followed by cold fronts bringing stronger winds, that could certainly give us an uptick in fire potential for a burning period or so if we see those conditions. So that, again, will be something we'll be monitoring as we go through the winter months. That concludes our seasonal outlook for this month. Check back next month for the latest updates.